All right, well, here we are. Welcome to CW Radio, and I am really excited to have you join us for this conversation. We had an unexpected change, and it's an exciting change. I am here with some old friends and those who you have heard from before if you have tuned into CW Radio, and some new friends who have joined us, and it's going to become obvious pretty quickly why they've joined us at the table. And I'm just grateful that they were willing to squeeze in, share a microphone, and be flexible. And so we're going to do our best to capture everything that they have to say, because it's going to be encouraging, and it's going to help us all who are watching, who are listening to know just another opportunity, another example of something that God is doing in Guatemala. So with that being said, and me putting my phone away and putting it on Do Not Disturb, let me just introduce who is sitting at the table with me. So first of all, those of you who have listened, you have met Juanpa and Wendy Rodas before. And so they are here. They're with us again, so we're going to get to hear from them. And then joining us for the first time, why don't you guys introduce yourselves? And I told Vinicio and Juanpa, because they are more comfortable speaking in Spanish, so they may speak in Spanish, and then Wendy will translate. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves and just tell us a little bit about you and your family, and we'll go from there. Vinicio.
Bueno, soy Vinicio Lopez.
My name is Vinicio Lopez.
A little closer, Vinicio. Gracias.
Bueno,
there you go.
Y estamos aquí con una visión como la que tiene también Juanpa y Wendy.
And we're here because we together have a vision.
Mm-hmm. Como estábamos hablando hace unos días acerca de la propiedad.
Mm-hmm.
And because we have there's this property.
En donde ustedes por lo menos van a escuchar acerca más entre un momento de Wendy y Juan Pablo también.
And you'll get a chance to hear about that later in the conversation from Wendy and Juanpa.
And I'm Karry Lopez, and
a little closer, Karry. Yeah, thank you.
And I'm Karry Lopez. We've been married for 13 years. We have 2 daughters. I originally came to Guatemala in 2003 and was here for a few years working before I met Vinicio, and then I moved back to the States and met Vinicio, my Guatemalan husband, in an Atlanta gas station.
Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
We moved back here 5 years ago, and we've been serving here now in Guatemala as a family for 5 years.
Sweet. I was trying to remember, Wendy and Juanpa, how long ago we actually met. Do you remember? Did we meet for the first time at Calvary Antigua?
Yes.
Like after a service or something?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it was about 4 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And since then, for those who don't know, since then, your daughter Daniela has actually come to Wolfboro, come to the United States and stayed with us, recorded some of her original songs, and she is now in college at Cornerstone University, right, in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And so tell us a little bit about what Daniela is doing and how this year's been for you.
Well, this year has been very, very crazy and unexpected, full of so many blessings. The Lord has been so good to us. The last time we spoke, we had plans of her going to Michigan, but it was still not very certain. And now she has moved. It's been almost a month now that she moved to Michigan. She is majoring in music and minoring in psychology. She is overwhelmed because it's a very big change in her life, but the Lord is preparing her. Today we got the opportunity to see a video of her singing in chapel, and just goosebumps because you see this is the reason why the Lord has brought her there. So for us as a family, it's been difficult, of course, because she's a big part of our ministry, but we have been experiencing enormous peace of the Lord just showing us, don't worry, I got this, and I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So before we talk about what Vinicio mentioned, I would think it would be cool for you guys, Juanpa and Vinicio, to talk a little bit about the ministry that you guys do together, because that's kind of, in some ways, what brought you, the two of your families together, right? Was the ministry of Servant's Heart. Is that not true?
Well, partly.
Okay.
We met, Karry and I met right when we moved here.
Okay.
So it was 5 years ago. 5 years ago.
Okay.
And so we met. It was very random. But immediately we knew we were going to be friends. Mm-hmm. And then they started serving with Servant's Hearts Ministries. And Juanpa, when all the things happened with our business and everything, he started serving part-time with them. And then they invited us. Servant's Hearts Ministry invited us to be a part of the ministry as well. And they have this guy bond in Servant's Hearts Ministry. They do a lot of guy things, and the Lord just really uses that for His glory. Yeah.
So talk a little bit about what you guys do. Juanpa, talk a little bit about what you guys do with Servant's Heart Ministries.
Sí, en Servant Heart, nosotros realmente el ministerio se enfoca en hacer casas.
So the focus of the ministry in Servant's Hearts is building houses.
Y también hacemos pozos de agua.
And we also drill wells.
Cuando empezó la pandemia se puso difícil.
So when the pandemic started to get really hard.
Pero fue una gran oportunidad donde empezamos a hacer bolsas de comida.
But it opened up a great opportunity to make food bags.
Porque se imaginan, si en Estados Unidos era difícil, imagínense cómo estaba difícil en Guatemala.
You can imagine if things were hard in the U.S., how things were hard in Guatemala.
Cuando hay personas que viven aquí con $2 o menos al día.
When here, some people live on a daily basis with $2 a day.
Entregamos, no me recuerdo la cantidad, pero creo que son más de 80,000 libras de granos.
So I don't remember the exact amount, but we delivered approximately 80,000 pounds of grains.
Y siempre seguimos sirviendo. Este año ya comenzamos a hacer algunas casas, pero no como regularmente lo hacemos.
And so this year, now we're going back to the norm, and we're going back to building some houses, but not as many as we usually do.
So Vinicio, I know I've been hanging out with you guys the last couple of days, and at some point you were talking about the long drives that you guys sometimes find yourselves on. What are some of the longest trips you've had to make to deliver food and supplies to families?
Esto fue cuando pasó una inundación, creo que fue el año pasado.
So last year we had really serious floodings, 2 hurricanes.
Que eso fue en unas aldeas de Cobán.
And this affected some villages in Cobán.
Que para llegar a Cobán estamos hablando aproximadamente de 6-7 horas.
So to get to Cobán, we're talking about approximately 6 to 7 hours drive.
Para hasta Cobán.
All the way to Cobán.
Pero para llegar a los pueblos donde fuimos a dejar comida.
But to finally reach the villages where we were going to be delivering the food bags.
Muchos eran como otras 5 o 6 horas más.
Sometimes it was 5 or 6 hours added to the others that they had already gone.
Carreteras muy peligrosas que no es asfalto.
Very dangerous roads, no pavement.
Sí, y casi que los días que fuimos a dejar bolsas con comida, lluvia.
And because of the time of the year that we were going, it would be rain all the time.
So, describe for those who've never been to Guatemala, Karry, what the roads are like in these areas where where your husband and Juanpa often go?
They're very scary. A lot of them are definitely not 2-lane roads. There's only room on many of them for one vehicle, and they're driving in trucks full of bags in the back. And a lot of times you look just a little bit over, and it's a very, very steep, not even cliff. I mean, it's literally you're on the mountain, and so you look over and you lose your concentration, and you could be over the edge of that very quickly.
Not a lot of guardrails.
No
right?
guardrails.
No guardrails.
And cars do come the other direction.
Right.
So it's not a one-way street. And so you have to be very skilled in maneuvering vehicles.
Yeah. And it's amazing how good a lot of the drivers are, because a lot of vehicles don't have big scrapes on the side. But you would think that how close everyone gets to each other, that everyone would have dents and scrapes. And so you have to either become a good driver or you just die.
And not only that, but it's also, like he said, they're not paved roads. So it's extremely bumpy.
Yeah.
Wendy and I took a trip in that direction once, and I literally thought I was not going to make it home.
Yeah.
And the trucks are like you feel every bump, not only on your lower part of the body, but on your shoulders, on your head, everywhere.
Yeah. You feel everything.
Everything.
Yeah. So Servant's Heart Ministries is a cool place to start, in part because I see it as really that ministry capturing your heart and the way that you as families like to do ministry and the way you think about doing ministry. As I have come and I've observed what that ministry and your ministry as families are like, I see that it's all about doing what God is calling us as the church to do, and not being concerned about A, who gets the credit, or B, if that every individual ministry kind of makes sure that it stays in its lane. And this is a challenging thing, even in the U.S. I think about how churches so often are like that, very territorial, that's our part, that's what we do, and kind of. But I know even since I've known you, I have put you in contact with another ministry, Welcome to My Father's House, and you immediately reached out to them to help them, and you've been helping them, and they are kind of the same way, and they have helped you. And so it's just really sweet. And that's a good segue or transition into kind of if we think about this as a follow-up from our last conversation, a lot's happened since then, and it was only a few months ago in March. So I don't know whoever would like to start, but let's talk a little bit about what you see for the future, the exciting thing Vinicio mentioned, this property. So let's talk now about the ministry that you guys see into the future doing together.
Well, yes, Servant's Hearts, one of the beautiful things about Servant's Hearts, and for us as a family when we became a part of it, was that Bob and Georgette, they're the people that started this ministry. They said, you guys can serve with any other ministry. And for us, that was a clear sign this is a ministry that we want to work with, because Juanpa was going to dedicate a lot of his time to doing a lot of the things that Servant's Hearts does, but I wanted to be able to serve as well, and not just stay home and not just do anything. So they are a wonderful ministry because they don't have this line, you can't work with these ministries. So we have always been, since the moment we started working in that ministry, we have always been partnering with other ministries. And during the pandemic, I feel we had the opportunity to see how the church is meant to work.
Yeah.
The church, as the body of Christ, is not different denominations, or it's not a denomination.
Shouldn't
it's
be,
not a
right?
group. It
Yeah.
shouldn't be. There should be no division in Antigua, Guatemala. In Guatemala, there are so many ministries that have the expertise to do something specific, like Servants Hearts. They are wonderful at building houses, and they are wonderful at drilling wells.
Yeah.
And they can put these abilities that the Lord has given them in the service of other ministries. And we are stronger when we work together.
Right.
So during the pandemic, we saw that happen. Other ministries like My Father's House, like Casa David, like many other ministries, Global Action, we would work together and say, okay, let's do something to help our people.
Yeah.
Let's use the abilities that Servants Hearts has, the trucks and these guys that are great at driving these trucks in crazy roads, and let's deliver the food where we want to get it, you know? And so we saw that happen, and for us, our desire and the reason why we have this new vision of what we want to do is if we all put our abilities in the service of other ministries, regarding of what that ministry is, regarding of their name or their denomination, if we all love Jesus, if that's our heart, and if we want to reach as many with the gospel of Jesus Christ, and also provide some of the things that people need, why not do it together?
Right.
It's not a competition.
Yeah.
We should work together.
Yeah. So Juanpa, why don't you begin to talk about what the vision is and what this new thing that you're praying. You know, you even said beginning tonight you're going to start praying weekly for this, getting together, the four of you at least to start with, and begin praying for this vision and this idea. So start to talk about what that vision is.
Sí, cuando nosotros nos casamos,
When we had just got married,
empezamos con ese sentimiento de que como que necesitábamos tener una casa donde podíamos recibir a grupos misioneros.
one of the desires that we had at the beginning was that we wanted to have a mission house for teams.
Pero al principio no sucedió, pero siempre lo teníamos en mente y orábamos. No era algo que orábamos constantemente, pero sí orábamos.
It was something that didn't happen. We started praying about it, but it didn't happen. So we continued to pray about it.
Entonces surgió, ya que con lo de la pandemia, muchos misioneros o muchos ministerios se han ido o algunos han desaparecido incluso.
So with the pandemic, we saw that a lot of missionaries went back home, and also a lot of ministries even disappeared.
Entonces surgió, y por lo mismo, por las mismas necesidades, porque apoyamos también a un ministerio que se llama Healing Nation, que ellos proveen salud.
And because we also serve with another ministry called Healing Nations, and they provide health services.
Right. Doctors and nurses come and provide,
Este es un ministerio, hemos ayudado con muchos ministerios que proveen salud.
So we've served with many ministries that provide health.
Okay.
Pero Healing Nation creo que tienen una visión específica.
And Healing Nation has a very specific vision.
Porque ellos no solo traen cuando detectan alguna enfermedad degenerativa.
Because when they find a specific disease in a person,
no le ponen solo una curita.
They don't just give a Band-Aid.
Mm-hmm.
Sino ellos le dan la medicina para 6 meses porque ellos vienen 2 veces al año.
But they provide medication for 6 months because they come twice a year.
Pero también se le da un seguimiento.
And also follow up to the patients.
Entonces, una vez, no sé ni cómo, entré al lugar donde hay una tierra que vimos, de plano el Señor me lo puso.
So he was just driving in a specific place and he saw this land.
Y dije, no sé, Señor, por qué me trajiste para acá, pero podría ser, es una gran oportunidad que oremos para si es lo que tú quieres.
And so I asked the Lord, like, why did you bring me here, Lord? If this is the place, and if this is an opportunity to do what you want us to do.
Ya le tomé muchas fotos, llamé al lugar, le conté a Wendy.
I took pictures. I called the owners of the place. I told Wendy about it.
Y ya lo vimos y hemos orado muchas veces en el lugar, incluso contigo también.
And so we've come to the place several times. We come and we prayed with several people, including you.
Incluso hasta los que son guardianes nos miran como que ya raros porque llegamos muy seguido.
Even the people that are guardians of the place look at us weird because they see us come very often.
The caretakers, we would say, yeah.
Entonces es algo que hemos estado orando y también porque realmente con los López tenemos la misma visión. No somos solo como que amigos, sino es una hermandad que solo el Señor puede hacerla.
And it's also something that we've been thinking about doing with the Lopez family because we're not just friends. It's kind of like a brotherhood, sisterhood, family relationship.
Ya les comentamos y no lo dudaron, al contrario, fue hasta una emoción para ellos.
We told them about this idea and they were very excited about it.
Okay, so pause there for a second. Why don't you guys talk about what is exciting about the idea to you? Demetrio?
Por lo menos la visión que tenemos, también voy a incluir a un amigo también, hermano también en Cristo.
So the vision includes not only our families, but also a brother that we have in Christ.
Que es Billy Sawyers.
His name is Billy Sawyers.
Es herrero.
And he's a blacksmith.
Okay.
Donde él también tiene una visión, por lo menos en la propiedad que ya hemos visto nosotros.
He also has a vision of having a shop in the property.
Él tiene una forma de enseñar.
He has a way of teaching.
Atraer lo que son hombres.
And it just draws men in.
Porque yo creo que la parte dura es atraer hombres a la iglesia.
One of the hardest things is to draw men into the church.
Okay.
A un hombre lo vamos a poner, por lo menos decir, la visión que tiene es por lo menos enseñar haciendo cuchillos.
So he teaches how to forge knives.
Wow.
Cómo él puede transformar un pedazo de metal.
And he goes into the process of transforming a piece of metal
en algo bonito que es un cuchillo.
And making it into something useful and pretty into a knife.
Él usa esa forma como Dios nos va transformando, que Dios nos puede sacar, como decir, de una adicción.
And he uses that analogy to show how God can transform us and take us out of like an addiction.
Y ahí es la forma él de que el proceso de él para cambiar nuestros corazones.
And he shows the process that God does to transform our hearts.
Como cambiarnos.
To change us.
Para seguir compartiendo lo que es el evangelio de Dios.
And to continue preaching the word of God, the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Wow. Karry,
la visión de él es, por lo menos, la visión que tenemos es de hacer
taller.
Como una, ¿cómo dijeron? Storage? No.
Okay, so let me explain a little bit because people might be confused, like a clinic and a shop and a mission house. Okay, so this piece of land is 1 acre. It is 1 Guatemalan acre, which is equivalent to 1.7 acres in the U.S. This land is beautiful. You will see pictures of it, and it's already surrounded by like a fence. It has already a little house and a little like a storage room.
Yeah.
Kind of like.
And a big avocado tree.
And a beautiful avocado tree, yes. And lime trees and a bunch of really great things. But so the idea here is that if we can purchase this piece of land, we have enough land for the clinic, for Healing Nations.
Yeah.
A mission house.
Yeah.
For teams that come from the U.S., but not just a mission house, that provides lodging and food, but a mission house that provides the preparation, the spiritual preparation for you to come and deal with the culture without hurting, and also goes through that process of really what does the Lord want to do with your heart in the time that you're here, going through prayer, through worship, through just a time of really, just retreat.
Yeah.
You retreat to another country, you serve, but at the same time, the Lord is going to be working in your heart.
Oh, yeah.
So not just the concept of a mission house, but a concept of come to a Guatemalan house.
Yeah.
With a Guatemalan
family.
Yeah. And let's experience the Lord together. Yeah. And then a shop where Billy can come and teach others and teach specifically men, because yes, men are the hardest to reach. And this would be a place where people can come and serve together.
Yeah.
Any ministry can come and use it. Any ministry. It would be opened to the community, not only that community, but all the communities.
Right. So, Karry, do you feel comfortable talking about the clinic part? Because we haven't talked too much about that yet, and where that idea is coming from, and why that is a need that seems to be a part of this vision too.
Sure. I think one of the things that Wendy and I have talked a lot about over the years, and that we're really passionate about, is just providing help that's really needed here. And not just in one area, but like a holistic kind of help. And
which, by the way, your background, you're a social worker.
I'm a social worker.
So this is right up your alley.
It is, and it's something that really, as I said, I'm passionate about, because we've given up our lives in the U.S. to be here. And I want whatever we're doing here, number one, to glorify God, but number two, to actually provide some help long term, not just today, not Band-Aid kind of help,
right?
But that's going to create long-term change. And so with the clinic, it's an opportunity to provide for a real need. There are so many people in this country that are affected with diabetes and high blood pressure, and don't have access to the health care that they need to live.
Right.
People are dying of these things. And so to have the clinic, to have these doctors who are providing regular follow-up, they come twice a year, but it's not just those twice a year clinics. It's the follow-up that is provided on a regular basis to those patients between those visits. So they're given practical help.
Yeah.
And through that, I think it causes people to say, why are these people doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Why are these people traveling over here to help us when we can't even get the help that we need right here in our backyard? And that opens the door for the gospel. And one of the things that we're talking about and studying is, how do we provide that help that is going to be lasting and provide real change and not actually hurt people? Because when we're not intentional and we're not really following Jesus' example, we can unintentionally hurt people.
Right.
And so what he did was he came in word and deed. And so I think those two components together, the clinic is one example of that. But as Wendy said even earlier, I have been so excited through the pandemic to see all of these ministries coming together. And it's when we come together that we can make an even greater difference.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just a little bit closer to the mic so that people can hear you. There you go.
Now she's more comfortable.
And just be careful about the tapping. Both of you ladies like to use your hands to talk. It's awesome. Yep. 1, 2, 3. I think about this idea that you mentioned, Karry, about the opportunity to present the gospel and how it opens the door. And one of the things that I was talking to Juanpa about earlier is how I have come to see what we describe as presenting the gospel is only half of the gospel. And what we're actually doing that draws them to that half is the other half of the gospel. It's the gospel that we experience rather than that we hear. And it's the love of Christ that is as much a part of the gospel as the truth of Christ. He was so impactful, not just in what he said, but in who he was and how he lived and what he did. And so what I hear you describing is the word holistic is a good word, because I describe the gospel now as two sides of one coin. One side is the gospel of salvation. That's what we typically think of as the gospel. And the other side is the gospel of the kingdom. And Jesus, when he came, that's what he said. Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is near. He brought the kingdom near, and then he left earth and left us to further develop his kingdom and to develop places where his kingdom rules, and to raise up disciples who live according to the law of the kingdom, which is the law of love, which is grace, which is not self-centered righteousness, but selfless righteousness. So when I think about this place, and I think about the clinic and the mission house where people can come, and I think about the foraging, the blacksmith area, and all of this, I think of what the church is supposed to be in the kingdom, and that is a healing community. It's a healing community, and some people need to be healed by work and having something productive to do. Some people need to be healed because they have physical infirmities. Some people need to be healed because they have emotional trauma and they're broken by life and by things that have happened to them. And this property, in what you're describing, it is going to be a place where the healing community that is the church can heal people, can do what we do when we're following Christ and when we're living according to his example, by his grace, with his strength. And that's exciting. And when you just talked about the clinic, and when Wendy first mentioned it, and they were talking about the vision when I was there yesterday, the first thing that popped into my head is, well, like, how are people going to get here, that need the clinic? It's the property. It's not in the middle of a town. It's kind of it's a beautiful place. But my thought initially was, well, why not do this in the middle of a town? So, did you have something else you wanted to say? And then I'll ask Wendy that question. Karry?
Well, I just wanted to say, as Wendy was talking about transitioning back to the mission house.
Yeah.
And how that is really a ministry too. I came the first time to Guatemala on a short-term mission trip, and there's transformation that happens in those people that come here. And it's not just about the service that we provide to the people here, but it's about the transformation that's happening in them. And there is an intentionality that needs to go into that in the preparation of a team before they come here, and also once they get here, because it's easy to walk through the streets and look around and go, well, why are they doing that?
Right.
That doesn't make sense. They shouldn't do that. But having an understanding of the history and the culture and all of those things that plays into it helps people to have a richer experience, and one that is more transformational, and one that can carry on once they leave.
Yeah,
And-
that's sweet. Yeah, and so it's a bit of a cultural education, which is really important for cross-cultural ministry, and anyone who's done missions for any period of time learns very quickly that you can make some major mistakes if you're not culturally aware and sensitive. So, and then the hospitality, that was the other thing that you mentioned that I was reminded of, is how the ministry of hospitality, which is a big part of your ministry and your heart. But what did you say to me about that question of how these people are going to come from all over? You told me an example of something, that made the answer to that pretty clear.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think that the reason why this land, the land is not in the center of a community.
Mm-hmm.
And so I see it as a good thing.
Yeah.
I see it as a good thing because sometimes when you build a clinic in a community, the community will see it as its own.
Yeah.
This is our clinic,
Right.
And then
And they'll start to keep people out.
And then another community, well, they need to get their own clinic,
Right.
And I think that that's a blessing, that the fact that it's not in the middle of a community, because it's not meant to belong to a ministry. It's not meant to belong to a church. It's not meant to belong to a village.
Yeah.
It's meant to belong to the people in general who need it.
Yeah.
And in Guatemala, there is such great need. People are willing to go as far as they need to go.
Yeah.
Wait outside, even when it's still night.
Yeah.
Sleep outside and wait until something is open.
Right.
If they know they're going to get whatever it is that they need for their problem. And so that's one thing. And then the other thing is, because this clinic has the same vision as we do, we want to be able to put these resources in, just lay them out and say, who needs them?
Yeah.
We know ministries. We have so many friends. Most of our friends here are missionaries.
Yeah.
And so many of them, we could say, like I gave you the example of Haiti and Carlos Fernandez of
Yep.
my father's house.
Yep.
They have a community in El Zapote that they support. So if you guys are willing to pay a bus and bring the people of El Zapote, we can see them once a month.
Yeah.
Or as often as they need,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know other people who are willing to bring their people, because this is the difference between having a clinic that will be in a specific place and will be willing to provide this service to people, is that it's not a one-time thing. We've participated in so many clinics that come, and they're wonderful, and their heart is sweet, and their intentions are wonderful. But you go to a remote village, you bring, 2 or 3 doctors, maybe 2 or 3 nurses, and you give medication for a week. But that diabetic patient who just found out he's a diabetic will receive medication for 2 weeks.
Right.
But the truth is that after they run out of that medication, they barely have money to buy food.
Right.
So they're not going to buy the medication that they need.
Yeah.
In Guatemala, medication is very expensive. So if a person knows that they can get medication for 6 months and come back 6 months after, and even if this medication isn't working, I can call and say, look, the medication isn't working. And they'll say, okay, let me talk to the doctor and we'll get back to you. Or come to the clinic and we can see you and we'll change your medication. Or we will adjust your medication.
Right.
And even yesterday, someone was mentioning they're going to start doing home visits to the patients that cannot come to the clinic.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge thing for Guatemala, for the situation of poverty that our people have. Just having a place, it doesn't matter how far it is, people will get there.
And we know that there were people seen at the clinic that came from at least 3 hours, maybe more
Right.
away.
And that's not unusual. Yeah, I mean, and you told me an example of a place that does surgery on the coast, like the north coast of Guatemala, and that people go 8 hours, 10 hours to go to that clinic. They find out where they are, and they will get there.
And people will find out about the clinic just because somebody told them about the clinic, and they'll want to know.
Yeah.
And we don't even have to let people know, like make propaganda.
Yeah.
Because if we do, I mean, we won't be able to see all the people that
Oh,
come.
sure, yeah. Yeah.
But people will find out about the clinic, and people will start coming.
That's cool. Well, anything else, Vinicio, Juanpa, anything else that you wanted to share or say about any of this before we wrap up? Any final thoughts, Juanpa?
Yo creo que lo más importante en lo primero que nos pueden ayudar es en oración.
So I think the most important thing and the first thing that people can help us with is praying.
Y si el Señor abre las puertas para proveer, para poder seguir sirviendo más a la comunidad, al país.
And if the Lord opens doors and He allows for us to continue serving the people and serving the country.
Todas las personas están invitadas a poder venir a servir con nosotros juntos.
Mm-hmm. Everybody's invited to come and just stay at the mission house and come and serve with us.
Awesome. Vinicio, anything else? Any other thoughts?
Bueno, lo que pienso yo es de que va a ser un lugar donde va a cambiar muchas vidas.
I think it's going to be a place where lives are going to be changed.
That's awesome. Well, it's exciting. So we will begin with prayer, and we will, I just hope that many who hear this will begin to commit themselves to joining with you in this weekly commitment to pray and to seek the Lord for the open door and the door of provision. And as we do, we also need to be willing that we would be prompted by the Lord to get involved in other ways. And of course, there will be those. There's the financial need, the property. Most people may not realize this, but property in Guatemala is actually, in a lot of cases, more expensive than property in the U.S. And so this is not an inexpensive piece of property. Like Wendy said, it's about 1.7 acres, and I think the asking price is what are they asking? The cost?
$320,000.
$320,000.
Yeah, in U.S. dollars.
Dollars,
so $320,000 for 1.7 acres, which again, I mean, that's not astronomical in the U.S., but certainly there's a lot of places where you could get that much land for a lot less. This is beautiful land. This is uniquely situated. And so that's something that we can be praying for and being willing that God would use us to be a part of too. As far as the ministry, this is something that you will do through the Commissioned Ministers Network, correct?
Yes.
And so we'll have information on that along with this podcast. We'll have a link to that. And with that, any final thoughts before we go?
Well, definitely, like Juanpa said, it's important to pray.
Yeah.
Second, if you want to come and join us, see the land, be a part of this. We are planning to travel to the U.S. at the end of the year.
Right.
At the end, approximately from the Thanksgiving week to right after Christmas. And the plan is to be able to visit several churches and be able to share this with other people. And maybe that would be also a good opportunity to partner. So if anyone knows a church that would like for us to come and visit in that period of time, we would love to. Just let us know so we can add that into the trip.
I might know of one.
Yeah.
In the U.S.
Yeah, we were counting on that one.
Well, it's great to be with you guys. Obviously, great to have this conversation. Great to be in your home, Wendy and Juanpa. And to get to know you, your daughter. It's just been sweet, and I look forward to many more times together with you guys. So with that, thank you, and we'll close out our time together this time. So until next time, God bless you, and see ya.